Hey everybody, welcome to the Mana Burn. This is Steve, and today we're going to build a Zaxara the Exemplary budget deck with $250. And there's actually a way for her to go infinite, and then there's other ways for her just to make big stupid green creatures and blue creatures and stuff like that. So we're going to get to the deck here in just a second. Everybody, if you could, give the video a thumbs up, plus ring the bell for future notifications. As well, a lot of the cards that are going to be in this video are going to be available for sale through my website, themanaburn.com. There's a link in the description of the video to go check that website out. There's also, on the About Me page, there's a link for my eBay feedback, so you can at least take a look and see my feedback is perfect, just so if there's any questions or anything. And if you have any questions or concerns, my email is on the About Me page as well for the website. Also, don't forget to subscribe. Leave some comments in the description, and we can discuss different options within the deck. There's going to be a lot of upgrades that can be made, and I'll discuss a couple of those as we're going. But and you can also join the Discord that's in the description, so you can talk to all the other guys and gals in there and discuss EDH topics and play nightly EDH games with us as well. So, without further ado, let's get into the deck here. We've got Zaxara the Exemplary, which is colorless, black, green, blue, for 2/3 Nightmare Hydra with Death Touch. Tap, add 2 mana of any one color to your mana pool. And also, whenever you cast a spell with X in its mana cost, create a 0/0 green Hydra creature token, then put X +1/+1 counters on it. The great part about the +1/+1 counters is the fact that you can manipulate those counters with proliferate, or you can minus a counter if you wanted to, or move them from one place to another. Or a great card in that came out in Ikoria, the Ozolith, you could move them to that if the creature were to die or something, instead of just having the creature die. So that's great. But the infinite combo with this is going to be with the tap to add 2 mana of any one color to your mana pool, and we'll get to that now. We have our first piece to the infinite combo, which is Freed from the Real. Freed from the Real is from Masters 25. It's an uncommon for 2 colorless and a blue. You can enchant creature, tap 1 and tap enchanted creature, or pay 1 blue to untap it. So basically with Zaxara, you tap Zaxara for 2 blue mana, and then you pay 1 blue to untap it, tap it, so you have a blue left over, and you basically have infinite blue mana, as much as you possibly could ever want. So that's piece 1. The second piece to it is the Walking Ballista. So basically you could cast Walking Ballista for 2. It comes in as a +1/+1, pay 4, put a +1/+1 counter on it, and you can remove a +1/+1 counter from Ballista to do 1 damage to target creature or player. So with infinite mana, you're just going to constantly make +1/+1 counters and do damage to target creature or player. So if a player has hexproof, but his creatures don't, kill all his creatures, swing in with Walking Ballista for the win. Get up to 40/40 or whatever you need to, and you can swing in with the win. A couple of other cards that'll help us out. This is an alternate win con. I put this in as a win con for a couple of reasons. Tormented Hailfire for 2 black and infinite X. So if you have Zaxara out with Penman's Aura, you can tap constantly, creating as much blue mana as you want. You tap 2 blue mana, or black mana, sorry, and game over. You repeat the process 100 times, and it's just game time. So it's a great card. Next, we have Kira's Follower, which is untapped target permanent. So this is going to help you with if somebody targets your Penman's Aura. Yeah, you're only going to be able to tap the Zaxara once more, but it will help you in that range of being able to tap or untap a creature. And then last but not least, Simic Ascendancy. Put a +1. Oh, so it's a green and a blue for an enchantment. You can tap a colorless, a green and a blue, and put a +1/+1 counter on a creature you control. Whenever one or more +1/+1 counters are put on a creature you control, put that many growth counters on Simic Ascendancy. At the beginning of your upkeep, if Simic Ascendancy has 20 or more growth counters on it, you win the game. So many ways to win the game with this card. You cast a Walking Ballista, let's say, or you cast a Walking Ballista, let's say, for 10, which is going to actually make it a 5/5, so it gets 5 +1/+1 counters. But because of Zaxara's trigger, you're going to make it 10/10. Boom, you've got 15 if Simic Ascendancy is on the battlefield, you got 15 counters right there. If one of them dies and you can move the counters over to Ozolith, you can put it on Simic Ascendancy, win the game at your next upkeep. Just a ton of ways to win with that card. Another win con is going to be Herald of Secret Streams. Creatures you control with +1/+1 counters on them can't be blocked. Again, so that means all those Hydras that Zaxara is creating are just going to be unblockable whenever they swing in for the attack, and it'll be a pretty easy win hitting them with those creatures. So that's it for the win cons. Now we're going to take a look at some of the mana ramp. Peer's Whim. For each player, choose friend or foe. Each friend searches the library for a land, puts on the battlefield. Each foe sacks an artifact or enchantment. So obviously you're going to pick friend for yourself, and everybody else is going to be a foe, and they have to sack, and you get mana ramp out of it. Now we have Animus Awakening, which is going to be to reveal the top X card of your library, put all lands onto the battlefield tapped, and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. You're going to see a common theme, obviously, with this deck, with everything, not everything, but a lot of stuff is going to have X in the casting cost, because with this, obviously, you're going to get to create a lot of Hydras. And then Spell Mastery. If there are 2 or more instants and or sorcery cards in your graveyard, untap the lands that you just put on the battlefield. So another great card. Arcane Signet, 2 colorless, tap for any 1 color in your commander's identity. Soul Ring, another mana ramp card. Not going to spend too much time going through that. Now we have Sylvan Scrying, which is search your library for a land, reveal it, put it in your hand, shuffle your library. Just another way to get whichever land you're missing, if you're missing one of the 3 colors. Same with Expedition Map. You search your library for a land, reveal it, put it in your hand. The nice thing about Expedition Map is the fact that you can search your library for any land. It doesn't have to be a basic land. So that'll help you get a Triome or something like that. Nylea's Intervention. This is going to do 3 things, sorry. 1, it's got X in its mana cost, so again, you're going to get to create a Hydra. 2, you're going to search your library for any land cards you want and put them in your hand. Or you're going to get to deal with flying creatures, where it's going to deal double the amount of X. So that's going to help you out a ton as well, so that's a great card to have. Next, that's it. We're going to go through some of the non-basic lands. So we've got Alchemist Refuge, which is a blue and a green tap, and you can cast non-land cards this turn as though they had flash. So a good way to be able to cheat stuff out without having a Vidalcan Orrery or something like that in your hand. Rogue's Passage, tap 4, target creature can't be blocked this turn. Think again to, you know, a big old Hydra or something you want to get through for 20, 30 points of damage because you had infinite mana. And then Arcane Lighthouse. Until the end of turn, creatures your opponents control lose Hexproof and Shroud, and they can't get it. So this is going to be a great thing to have on the battlefield when you have, let's say, Walking Ballista. If your opponent has Hexproof, this is going to be a good way to, and his creatures do as well. You can get rid of the creature Hexproof, kill off all the creatures, go in for the swing and the win. Next, we're going to go through quite a few utility cards. A lot of these are going to have X in them. So you have Profane Command, which is X black black, and you get to choose 2 of these. Target player loses X life. Return target creature card with converted mana cost X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Target creature gets -X/-X until the end of turn. Or up to X target creatures gain fear until the end of turn. So the 2 that I really like out of this are going to be the creatures gaining fear until the end of turn. So if you're not going against anybody that's playing an artifact or black deck, they can't block. And all your creatures are just going to go through. The other one I like is target player loses X life. If somebody's playing black and artifact, you can also do the second one, which is return target creature card with mana cost X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. That's a great one too. Especially if you were to pay to beef this deck up, you know, and you were to have stuff like Kakusha, the Evening Star, or Shield Red, the Whispering one, stuff like that. But for now, I think the target player losing X life and your creatures gaining fear are going to be the best ways to go. Our next card that we have is going to be Hardened Scales. So, because of the budget, we can't put stuff in here like Doubling Season. So Hardened Scales is one of those that's going to be able to at least help us beef up our counters throughout the game. If one or more +1/+1 counters would be put on any creature you control, that many +1 are put on there instead. So instead of a 10/10, it's an 11/11. And it's only 1 green mana. It's well worth it for all the benefits you'll get throughout the game. Next is Shark Typhoon. Shark Typhoon is a great card from Ikoria. I think it's one of the better cards that came out in the set. And it's whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you create an XX blue shark creature token with flying, where X is that spell's converted mana cost. So if you have Zaxara and Shark Typhoon out, you're going to be creating Hydras and Sharks the whole game. And it's just awesome. So Shark Typhoon, you can also cycle it where for X, 1 and a blue. And whenever you cycle it, you get to create a shark creature token with flying. And the Ozolith, I referred to this earlier. So whenever a creature you control leaves the battlefield, if it had any counters on it, you put them on the Ozolith. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if the Ozolith has counters on them, you may move them. You may move all creatures from it onto a target creature. So if you think about it, your creature has fear or something like that. Boom! Next thing you know, you're taking 20 counters off of this and making it a 20-20 or a 40-40 or something. Just such a good card. Next is Wildest Dreams. So this is going to help you in case you get board wiped. Return X target cards from your graveyard to your hand and exile Wildest Dreams. Yes, it's got a double X cost, but with Zaxara, you're going to be able to create tokens plus get cards back from your graveyard. So it's going to help you out a lot. Next is Icy Blast. Tap X target creatures. If you control a creature with 4 or greater, those creatures don't untap during the controller's next untap steps. Obviously, you're going to have a creature with 4 or greater most likely at all times, and you're going to get to tap everything on the board, hopefully, with the X, and then create a token. So you have basically two swings to kill the table. Just a great utility card. Next is Death Denied. It's X with 2 black. Return X target creature cards from your graveyard to your hand. Again, I love this card, 1, because it's an instant, and 2, because you can play it, or because it'll get your creatures to your hand that have been killed by any kind of, board wipes. Next is Exsanguinate. Each opponent loses X life, and you gain life equal to life lost this way. A great card with X black black, so just phenomenal card. Torment to Hailfire again. And then Unbound Flourishing. This is one of the more expensive cards in the deck. Whenever you cast a permanent spell with a mana cost that contains X, double the value of X. So imagine that you're going to do a Walking Ballista for 10. Well, now it's 20. And whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell or activate an ability, if that spell's mana cost or the ability's activation cost contains X, you copy the spell or ability. You may choose new targets. Think Torment to Hellfire right there, or Exsanguinate. It's basically a doubling. It's so good. Such a strong card. Next is Hedonist Climb. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on a creature you control. If that creature has 3 or more +1/+1 counters on it, transform Hedonist Climb. And then when you transform Hedonist Climb, you can give a creature +X/+X and flying until the end of turn. Another great card, Mass Manipulation. Gain control of X target creatures and or planeswalkers. And it's quadruple blue and XX. But again, if you've got Zaxara out and you're able to tap her for infinite mana, it's going to be a phenomenal card. Or if you can double the spell, it'll be a great card as well. So those are all our utilities. We don't have a ton of tutors in here, but we do have a couple. One is going to be Villainous Wealth. Target opponent exiles the X top cards of their library, and you may cast any number of spells with converted mana cost X or less from among them without paying their mana cost. So if you want to go infinite, you can mill somebody to death. If you want to go infinite with Zaxara, or if you have Unbound Flourishing out, you can double the spell. So, and you could do 2 different opponents if you wanted to. So it's a great card. Next we have Diabolic Tutor. Search your library for a card, put it in your hand, shuffle your library. Nothing crazy about that. And those are the only 2 tutors that we have. Now we're going to get into some of the card draw. Blue Sun Zenith. Target player draws X cards. So again, you can mill somebody else. You could help yourself to some card draw. And this goes back into your library. So it's a very, very good card. You're not supposed to mill yourself, so you might not want to mill yourself out with that. So Open into Wonder. X target creatures can't be blocked this turn. Until the end of turn, those creatures gain whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. So if it's early game, let's say turn 4, turn 5, you can do this for, let's say, 3 or 4 because you can't go infinite. You're still going to get to draw 3 or 4 cards and your creatures can't be blocked, so you're going to be able to get to do a good amount of damage. Pull from Tomorrow, one of the most underrated draw cards in my opinion. X, blue, blue. You draw X cards, then discard a card. Pump it for 6, draw 5, discard 1. Okay, I'll take that deal all day. And if you've got Zaxara out, or you're creating a token, if you've got, or you're creating a Hydra, if Sharknado is out, you're creating a Shark Typhoon is out, you're creating a Flying Shark. There's just so much utility with these cards on top of the draw. Next is Stroke of Genius. Again, I really like this card because it's instant speed. The instant speed is what really attracts me to it. X2 in a blue, target player draws X cards. And then Damnable Pact. Target player draws X cards and loses X life. Again, you can do this to yourself, you can do this to somebody else, and kill them that way off of card draw. And then we put in a Zendikar Resurgent, so that when you tap your land for mana, it produces an extra one, and whenever you cast a creature, you draw a card, because it is a creature-heavy deck, which we're about to get into here in a couple of minutes. And then Elemental Bond. Whenever a creature with power 3 or greater enters the battlefield, draw a card. So this is great because you don't have to cast the creature, it just has to enter the battlefield. So all those flying sharks and everything else are going to enter, and you're going to get it no problem. And then Finale of Revelation. Draw X cards. If X is 10 or more, instead shuffle your graveyard into your library, then draw that many cards. You get to untap 5 lands, and you have no maximum hand size the rest of the game. So it's just a great card. So that's all of our card draw. So we have 2 cards to protect our commander. It's going to be Lightning Greaves and Swiftfoot Boots. And I'm not sure why that went over to that side of the screen, but I will fix that for the next video. I'm 20 minutes in. I don't want to change the video now, so sorry about that, guys and gals. So Feral Hydra is our first creature. Enters the battlefield with X+1/+1 counters on it. And you can pay 3 to put another +1/+1 counter, and anybody can do that. So if you got somebody at the table that wants you to block or kill their creature for something. So it's another Hydra. I'm not going to go through obviously all these creatures are going to come in with +1/+1 counters. But I'll go through what the other positives are. 1, can't be blocked by more than 1 creature, and if it's dealt damage, it gets that many +1/+1 counters on it. Obviously, it must live. Vastwood Hydra, when it dies, you distribute the amount of +1/+1 counters on it to any number of creatures you control. Varel of the Hullclade, you're going to double the number of each kind of counter on target artifact, creature, or land. So this is going to help you with your Ozolith. This will help you with your creatures. It'll help you with everything. Lifeblood Hydra is going to be when it dies, you gain life and draw cards equal to its power. Stonecoil Serpent, protection from multicolored, and enters the battlefield with all the counters. Gilder Baron, this is going to be 2 colorless with a green or blue. For each counter on target permanent, put another of those counters on there. So another way to just beef up your creatures and your Ozolith and things like that. Protean Hydra, if damage would be dealt to it, prevent that and remove that many +1/+1 counters from it. And whenever a +1/+1 counter is removed from it, put 2 of the counters on it at the beginning of the next end step. Gargos, Hydra spells are 4 less to cast, and whenever a creature you control becomes the target of a spell, Gargos fights up to 1 creature you don't control. Awesome card. Voracious Hydra. When it enters the battlefield, you can double the number of counters that you're putting on it, or you can have it fight a creature you don't control. Corpsejack Menace. If 1 or more +1/+1 counters will be put on a creature, twice that many are put on instead. So you get to double all the amount of counters, so it's really good. Hydroid Krasis. When you cast this spell, you gain X life and draw X cards, round down each time. It's got flying and trample. So it's a great card. Pump it, cast it for 12. You get to draw 5, gain 5. Not a bad card. And then Altered Ego. It can't be countered, and it can enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature, except it enters with an additional X counters on it. And then Mistcutter Hydra. It can't be countered, has protection from blue and haste. So another great Hydra there. And now we've got our individual removal cards. We've got a Beast Within. which is going to destroy a permanent, and its its controller gets a beast token. Putrefy is destroy an artifact or creature, can't be regenerated. Wash out, return all permanents of the color of your choice to their owner's hands. So for 4 mana, you're playing against somebody with a green deck or a blue deck or black, whatever. Just bounce everything back to their hand. And then Steelbane Hydra, it is a creature, but you can tap 3 and remove a counter from it, destroy an artifact or an enchantment. Awesome card for removal. And then Curse of the Swine, you exile X target creatures. For each one exiled this way, its controller gets a 2/2 green boar. And X being in the casting cost is just so good. You could do so many creatures, it's phenomenal. Now we're going to get to, we only have 4 or 5 counter spells in here, but they're pretty good ones. So we have Disallow, which is counter a spell, an ability, an activated or triggered ability. So that's going to help slow somebody down if they're going with an infinite combo or something like that. Or just countering a spell in general. Then we have Void Slime. It's the same as Disallow. Counter target spell or ability, triggered or activated. And then we have Condescend. Counter target spell unless its controller pays X. Scry 2. Again, X in the mana cost because that's awesome. Same thing with Thassa's Intervention. You can shuffle. You could dig through your library for a couple of things, or counter target spell unless its controller pays X. Twice X. And then we have Spell Blast. Again, counter spell with converted mana cost X. Power Sink. Counter target spell unless its controller pays X. So those are our counter spells. Really good ones in this deck. And then we only have the one Planeswalker, which, again, I apologize. I do not understand why it is not wanting to stay on the screen here. I will fix that right now, though. That one's easier to fix. So, I apologize, folks. This is so bad. Okay. I went through and tested it, but apparently not well enough. So, Ikoria, Behemoth Beckoner, is whenever a creature with power 4 or greater enters the battlefield, draw a card. Again, the word is enters the battlefield, not cast. And then for -1, you can untap target permanent. So if you don't have your Freed from the Real on Zaxara, and you can untap her and still do her ability again. So that's the entire deck tech. That's everything that we would go with Zaxara in order to go for our win cons. Great infinite combos, just great combos all around with this deck. And you can win a multitude of ways, not just 1 or 2 ways. So I hope that you all really enjoyed the video. I hope that everybody learned something, or, if you have questions, please reach out to me, leave comments in the comment section, or, message me through my website. If you have any questions about cards and availability, please, by all means, shoot me a message, and I will let you know if I either have them, and if I do, what the cost is and stuff like that. I do have a collection of quite a few cards. So, again, don't forget to like and subscribe to the videos, and I appreciate everybody. Thank you for everything you guys do and all your help, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.